There you go. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Supremacious here. This is Shabbos Ekev. Parshas Ekev. This very fundamental Shabbos week speaks about a very important and fundamental principle, which is the union of the tikkun of the akev, the tikkun of the heel, the low levels of the heel. By the way, as you can see, there's a balloon right behind me. I had a group of 14-year-old girls coming, volunteers, that came from America, some kind of kaitana, and from Five Town in New York. And they came to the room and they wanted to know what can they do for me. Maybe they can make me coffee. So, okay, can make me coffee. And they were like the happiest people on earth. I said, do you want a balloon? So, who doesn't want a balloon? So here's the balloon. So I said, I'm just looking at the balloon. I said, I don't know really what to do with it. So they said, you can name it. I said, that's a good idea. Let me think of it. So I think, how about if I name it Timothy? They said, that's a great name. So I said, on the other hand, I may call it Oscar. So they said, call it both names, Timothy Oscar. Oh, wow. So this is Timothy Oscar. All right. Anyhow, back to the Nakuda we're talking about. We all live in the generation of the heel, Ekev. And there's a special expertise that needs to be practiced when you are in the level of Ekev, of Akev. The Rizal says that any of the tzaddikim that had the name Ekev in this part of their name, like Yaakov Avinu, like Rabbi Akiva, they all neshamas that came from the heel of usually the left shoulder, spiritually left shoulder of Adam Rishon. Anyhow, so this principle, this guideline is where our story heads to. The last thing that we visited in the story was that the princess tells him, you have to take another place and long for me for another year. And the last day of the year, just make sure you don't sleep. And, to facilitate being awake, just make sure, that, don't drink any alcohol. And he sees a stream that looks like wine, it smells like wine. And being that we are in the 21st century, you already know if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck, it probably is a duck. But that was, before, I guess. So he told his servant, it's just a queer thing. Here's a stream, looks like wine, smells like wine, but it's supposed to be water. And he dipped his stick in it and he just tasted it. And boom, he fell asleep. And he fell asleep for 70 years. When we spoke about this union of, the first time that he failed because of the apple, it's a taiva. The second time he didn't fall because of the taiva. He fell because it was a curiosity. The pgam is in the machshava. It's a conceptual pgam. And it's therefore that much more severe, and it leads to a sleep, which means you're alive, but you have no idea that you're alive, what life is all about. You're sleeping your life. You know, you're trying to become famous or rich or whatever it is that you're trying to become. You're basically asleep. To be awake is to realize that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world, and we're living in a life right now, which B'ezrat Hashem will come to an end, which is a tikkun in and on itself, and that tikkun is not possible without leaving this world and being buried, which is the gateway to, you know, to the next phase of life, which is getting close to Kadosh Baruch Hu spiritually and so forth and so on. So the first test that he fails is because of a vice. The second test that he fails is because of thinking too much. You know, they say curiosity killed the cat. What do you care? You were told not to drink. It looks like wine, it smells like wine. No, you know, I don't mean to drink, you know. I have absolutely no intention of drinking. It's that I just find it strange. Let's see, we're having a share. I just find it strange that, you know, it looks like wine, should be wine. And he drinks it and he falls asleep for 70 years. Then supposedly we visit like really the Churban, we like the destruction of everything. The princess comes, there are all these armies that are passing by him. Then she comes and she tries to wake him up, and he doesn't wake up, and she cries and she laments, and she writes the whole story, whatever it is, all her lamentation, and she leaves that kerchief behind, written with her tears. So then after 70 years, he wakes up, he asks his servant, where am I in the world? I apologize for the shaking. I've trying to hold the phone in my hand. Anyhow, so what happens next is that he forgoes the servant and he goes alone. If you remember, he got for his quest a horse and a servant, and he went searching to get to the castle where the no good was there. He had to leave the horse behind, which is the body. Now she's telling him, in the message written in tears, that she's no longer in that castle. And in order to find her, he has to look for a golden mountain, and a castle made of pearl. And as the story continues, we see that he, like, in a nutshell, takes years and years and years. Then he gets to, in one of the deserts, he sees a person, huge, a giant, that you never see such a person in the civilized world, and he's carrying a huge tree on his shoulders, like the biggest tree, like bigger than the Sequoia trees, like huge. And this person asks him, who are you? So he says, I'm a person. So the giant says, a person? I've never seen a person here. It's like I've been here, that's my domain. I've never seen a person here. If you recall, that was the same theme or in the exchange children. Tzaddik meets him in the desert. He says, who are you? He says, I'm a person. He says, a person? I've never seen a person come here. So the giant asks him, what are you looking for? So he says he's looking for a mountain of gold and a castle made of pearls. So the giant says, listen, there's no such thing. No such thing. What are you talking about? And he insists, and he tells him, listen, it's a shtus, it's nonsense. No, it doesn't exist. But he insists, says, listen, since you insist, there's another desert where is my brother. No, so I'm sorry. So that giant says, listen, since you insist, I'm in charge of all the animals in the world. So I'll call all of them and ask them if they've seen, they're going all over the world, I'll ask them if they've seen it. And he calls all the animals and he asks them, have you seen a mountain of gold and a pearl made of castle? And they said, no. She says, you see, they're just fooling you. So, but he disagrees. So he says, okay, listen, the next desert is my brother, who's in charge of all the birds. The birds fly all over, they fly all over. So why don't you go to him, tell him I sent you. And so the story repeats. He goes to him and tells him the same thing. He says, nah, it's a shtus. He calls all the birds. All the birds says, we never see anything like this. Again, he tells him that this is just a shtus. But he insists. He says, listen, since you insist, there's another desert, and my brother is there, and he's the one in charge of all the winds, all the spirits, whatever you want to call it. So he goes, he finds him, and same scene unfolds again. And he tells him, says, I'll send all the winds, and all the winds come. And they said they've never seen anything like this. So he says, you see, I told it was nonsense. And he starts to cry a lot. While this is going on, another wind came. And the one who's in charge of the winds was upset with him, with that wind. And he says, why don't you come together when I called everybody here? So the wind said, because I was busy, I had to carry a princess to a mountain of gold and a castle made of pearls. He was very happy. This is a storm wind that brought the princess there. And now the third giant tells him, listen, giant carrying a tree, tells him, being that you went through so much trouble, maybe when you go there, you'll have some obstacles because of financial obstacles. You won't be able to get there. So she says, I'm going to give you a pocket and a purse that whenever you'll need money, you'll be able to put your hand into it and you'll have money. And that same wind that the princess carries him into that place. And he says, and there were guards outside. And so he took his hand into the purse, took out money, bribed them. And the end of the story, Rabbeinu says, at the end, he took her out. But Rabbeinu says, did not tell how he took her out. So this is the story in a nutshell. And there are a couple of things, as we'll go along, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll stop and visit each station in the story. But there are two things which really jump, to the eye when you're looking at it. The princess leaving the castle of the Sitra Achra, the bad. Now she's going to a place that everybody says that doesn't exist. She is lamenting, she's writing a lamentation. with tears. The only way he can read the message is by holding up the kerchief, like up to the sun, and then he can see the letters. That's another message all its own. But the main thing that I wanted to touch in today's shir is the fact that what we have learned until now is a story of, for lack of a different, better term, of perseverance. He perseveres. He fails and he fails and he fails and he fails, but he perseveres. First, he slept for I don't know how many years, and now he slept for 70 years. The princess is lost. She's gone to a place where you'll never know what she is. People plowed, giants and, that are in charge of the entire creation tell him that that place doesn't even exist. And he was fooled. But what is so easy to miss is the fact that all you see from him is failures. He sat for 1 year and he fell asleep. He ate the apple the last day. Then again, for a whole year he worked. And then the last day he drank the wine and fell asleep for 7 years. It seems like all his history is just one long chain of failures. But there's one astounding thing, which is very easy to miss. All throughout all his failures, he accomplished what he wanted to do, which is to take the princess out of the castle of the Sitra Achra. How to retrieve her, to bring her to the king, it is a separate story. But when you take and you read this story and you see this, here he fails, here he fails, here he fails. It's like, before at least he knew where she was. Now she's no longer there. And she's like in this imaginary place and nobody knows where it is. But the single factor that gets lost here in the translation, as it were, he took her out. This has to do with Ekev. Pashas Ekev. We're the heels. We're the one who failed. We're the ones who fail. And it seems to us that this is like a Sisyphic effort. We climb the mountain only to roll down, having accomplished nothing. Then we climb the mountain again and only to fail and roll down again, even worse than before. So like, what is this about? In the language of this world, it's like you haven't accomplished anything. You never won a championship. Whatever it is that you are told, you failed. But what Rabbeinu teaches us is that with his toil and his failures, he took the Shekhinah out of the castle. She's no longer there. The idea is the value of you pushing on, despite the fact that you are disappointing yourself and everybody else, and you're stinking up the joint every single step of the way. And it seemed like, man, this is it. Just give it up. No, you took the Shekhinah out. That perseverance, persevering and failing, persevering and failing, even worse than before. You think that you're the worst that you've ever been. But you took the Shekhinah out of the castle in Sitra Achra. When you can say, well, yeah, but now she's a place that Nobody even knows that there is such a place. So we can drop a hand and we can see that when he finally came to those giants, and we'll talk Zat Hashem in further sure about these giants. When he arrives at the final giant that is in charge of all the winds, and that storm wind comes, and the one in charge gets upset with the wind and says, "Where were you? I called all the winds." So the winds say, "I was busy carrying the princess to a mountain of gold in a pearl of castle. I mean, a castle of pearls." Where was she until now? Right now, the wind was busy to take her there. He's searching for years and years and years. Where was the Shekhinah until now? In other words, that which they told him, there's no such thing, there's no such place, they were right. There was no such place. With his toils, with his perseverance, with his obstinacy, with his akshanas, he created the mountain of gold and the pearl of castle. I mean, castle of pearl, blah, 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 castle of pearls. And the Shekhinah could be there, so he can go there and he can take her out. So the lesson of this particular limud is you can't judge what you're doing, what you're accomplishing by how it feels. You know, I feel so bad. I feel so worthless. I feel so like, I mean, look, everybody is like succeeding in this and succeeding in this, and they're getting married, they're having children, and this, and they're making money, becoming very holy people, and blah, blah, blah. And look at me. I bring nothing to the table. I bring nothing to the table but failures. Rabbeinu teaches us those failures is what took the Shekhinah outside of the domain of Sitra. And the persevering in the failures in face of mockery, where everybody told him, "Man, you made a fool." He had no idea. He had no idea he was actually creating that place with this perseverance. All he knows that he kept on looking, and somehow kept on being obstinate that no, I know that place exists. Your failures are your successes. My failures are my successes. This is the chizik Rabbeinu gives us today. Don't think you don't accomplish anything because you don't feel the accomplishment. You can touch it. You feel all broken. You feel all depressed. You feel all like, man, I feel so worthless. So yeah, with this, you're taking the Shekhinah out because you don't let this put you down. So no, I feel the way I feel, it's fine. I'm allowed to feel whatever it is I feel. It's important. It's chashav, it's b'simcha. But that is not an indication. As long as you keep on at it, you're taking the Shekhinah out. You are taking the Shekhinah out right now. No matter what your opinion is about yourself. Okay. I think that under the circumstances, we have Timothy Oscar behind on the wall. And we will end up here. B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully by the next year, Likutei Moharan on Thursday, hopefully I'll be home already. I'll be able to whatever is more than here. But let me just stop the recording. Yeah, stop.